No one's immune to arguing for our limitations. We just have to remember that the way we think and then what we say will either move us in the right direction or it'll hold us right where we are. If you catch yourself thinking, I can't do this because, stop and ask yourself, how can I? If he had argued that it would be impossible for him to build a new car company against all of the established manufacturers, Tesla wouldn't exist today. If you're going to shift your mind and shift your results, you've got to make peace with the facts. This exercise can help you start seeing possibility instead of limitation. Arguing for your limitations will only make them persist. Hey, my friend, welcome back to the MindShift podcast. I'm excited to have you here today. If you happen to be here for the first time, welcome. I'm your host, Darrell Evans. And for the last 30 plus years, I have journeyed in this world as an entrepreneur, for one, as a marketer, for two, and most importantly, the loves of my life as a parent, as a father, as a man who's been on a mission to do one thing consistently, at least the attempt has been to positively impact lives. We started this show to help you shift your mind so you can shift your results. A conversation a few days ago led to the topic of today's show when I was having a conversation with an entrepreneur. And for the last 14 years, our agency has been helping small and mid sized companies, entrepreneurs, founders, CEOs, and their heads of marketing grow their digital marketing presence online, generate leads, generate customers. And for whatever reason, this conversation really tipped me over as I was talking to an entrepreneur of a law firm, a founder of a law firm. And throughout the conversation, she spent time arguing for her limitations. I don't know about you, if you've ever had something to do, something to accomplish, something you were working on, something you were facing, but you find yourself finding every reason why it won't work versus digging into the reasons why it will work, can work, and the solutions that could lead you on the pathway to making it work. Let's talk about this for a little bit because it is something that I have wrestled with as an entrepreneur, as a founder, as a marketer, as a parent. You know, it's super interesting how when we look in the rest of our world, how dangerous this philosophy can be when we're talking ourselves out of the very thing that we say that we want. It's a dangerous habit. We do it sometimes because of our upbringing, sometimes because of our past experience, and other times it's because of the environment that we are either in or that we came from that we continue to reassociate ourselves with. As entrepreneurs, specifically, we face difficult situations every single day, sometimes things that are impossible. I mean, if we just go back to COVID, and while this medical situation was life threatening to all, there were businesses who were told in a moment that their business would be shut down immediately. Maybe you are scaling a startup, maybe you're trying to go acquire a big client, maybe you're trying to disrupt your established industry. Maybe right now you're trying to navigate all of the technological change with AI and blockchain and all of the things happening with the world that we're in. But we got to be careful when we defend our inability to do something or to overcome a challenge where we essentially are inviting adversity through our own thinking, and we end up in this self-defeating attitude that becomes what is known as a self-fulfilling prophecy, which really just holds us back from the very thing that we say we want. In the world of business specifically, and as it relates to this conversation, if you're not in business, you're maybe you're a student in school and you're trying to get your degree. Maybe you're just out of school and you're just starting your new career. If you are Bronny James, who just joined the Lakers to play with his dad, LeBron James, one of the best basketball players who've ever played, you are going to face some adversity and some adverse thoughts. But you've got to be careful when you enter the environment to do the thing that you say you want to do, you got to be careful how you deal with limitations. You got to be careful how you think about the challenges that you must overcome. Jumping back into business, what if Elon Musk thought there's no real room for another car company in the automobile industry? If he had argued that it would be impossible for him to build a new car company against all of the established manufacturers, Tesla wouldn't exist today. Love him or hate him, he's broken through those limitations. He told himself a different story and challenged the status quo and has revolutionized that industry. What about the folks who started Airbnb? What if they had told themselves, nobody's really going to want to rent someone else's house? Hotels is the best thing going. Okay. We've got to be really careful with our internal dialogue and how it shapes our reality. When you tell yourself you can't compete when you're a small business, I work with a lot of small and mid-sized companies, and they're often telling me, well, we don't have as big a budget as they do. We don't have the resources they do. We don't have as many people on our team as they do. And if you've been around MindShift at all, you'll know that I'll say, great, then let's just make peace with the facts. Step one of the MindShift method, right? If you're new here, there's something we call the mind shift method. Step one, if you're going to shift your mind and shift your results, you've got to make peace with the facts. It doesn't mean you're going to make excuses because of the facts. You're going to just make peace with the facts. But if you're sitting back saying, well, I don't have enough experience, or I don't have the right skills or the right talent, listen, right now is one of the most incredible times in the history of the world for anyone to do anything that they want to do. Don't get me wrong, there's places in the world, there's problems, there's wars going on, there's people that are lacking food and people that are lacking water, and there is issues with climate and all of these things. We're not belittling that. But let's be careful with the work that we're doing, the road that we're chasing. Let's be careful with these thoughts that can become self-imposed barriers preventing us from taking the necessary action for the success that we're chasing. Listen, there are countless stories, you've heard of them. People in the Bible, people in real life, friends in your neighborhood, family members who overcame an illness. You know, one of the things I really often go back to are people that have a critical diagnosis where otherwise would be deemed the end is coming soon, that you're not going to make it. And somehow, some way, they make it through it where others don't. In my experience, when we stop arguing for our limitations, we stop arguing for our limiting belief. We stop arguing for the background that we came through, the neighborhood we grew up in, the parents we had, the financial situation that wasn't how we would have ideally liked it to be, is the moment we can start pushing through and past those things. We can do step two. Everyone here listening to this today can do step two. Step one in the mind shift method is to make peace with the facts. Maybe they do have more people on their team. Maybe they do have a bigger budget. Maybe someone else got a free ride to school where you got to pay for school. Maybe someone else has better credit than you have and you got to pay a little higher interest than the other person. Those are just the facts in the moment. And the funny thing is, every moment there is a new decision to make, which is step two. You can choose to make a new decision. So I want to help you with a couple of ideas and strategies as we wrap this up. Because I know some of you listen to this, you're like, yeah, I've heard this before. Well, if you've heard it before, why are you still making self-limiting comments, thoughts, beliefs? And here's what's really interesting. Because when you're sitting with the person or sitting with the professional or sitting with the resource that could change your life, you actually are still fighting against it. You are sitting with the person, the company, the plan, the doctor, the teacher, the school, the program that could turn it all around for you. And yet you're arguing for your limitations. Here's a couple of ideas. Step one, you've got to reframe the very words, not that you're saying, but the words that you're thinking. You see, most of what you're saying started in your thoughts. So we've got to start with our thoughts before we open our doggone mouth, right? I remember my dad saying, we grew up all the time, loose lips sink ships. And I didn't get it for a long time, but that means when you're constantly running your mouth, you're causing trouble somewhere. Anyway, let's talk about this first step. Number one, let's reframe what is even possible. If you catch yourself thinking, I can't do this because, stop and ask yourself, how can I? 3 words. Shift the sentence to, how can I compete with the big boys? How can I handle this full class load in school when my friends have easier disciplines? How can I make it in the NBA being the son of one of the best basketball players ever? And the scrutiny on me is going to be absolutely insane. You can insert your situation any way you'd like. But when you say, how can I make this happen? How can I find the resources? How can I partner with the right people? How can I find the right resource or solution? You'd be surprised what starts to happen. You'd be surprised what doors start opening up. You'd be surprised what people start showing up. You'd be surprised how people start open up pathways and doorways for your assistance. Step 2, you have to adopt. And this is easily said, harder to do, but you must adopt a growth mindset. A growth mindset. Dr. Carol Dweck. This book is a great read. It's called Mindset. I just came across the book about 7, 8 years ago. I've been a study of psychology, a study of success, a study of personal development for over 34 years. And this book gets right to the heart of what stops us from reaching our full potential. I remember being on vacation and reading this book, or getting into the book when I was on vacation. And she just simply says, by the way, this is for parenting, this is for business, this is for school, this is for relationships. Everyone can benefit from this book. It's about a fixed mindset or a growth mindset. It's actually fairly binary. The interesting thing about life is that we do go between those. It's not 100% one or the other, because life throws curveballs and it's easy to fall back on the way we've always done it versus going after the how can I philosophy. So, step number 2, if you really want to stop arguing for your limitations, is start to invest in growth. Start looking for opportunities to learn and to grow. You're here on this podcast, so I know I'm preaching to the choir. I know you know this, but sometimes we let life circumstances pull us away. I'm guilty. I'm not preaching to you. I know I've been through it myself, and I have to keep reminding myself that whatever I'm going through, if I lack a skill, it's not permanent. I can find a way to learn how to do it. If I'm lacking the right team member in my companies, I can find the right person, because there's 8 billion people on the planet. I know that whatever I'm seeing is not a permanent situation. It's not a permanent limitation. And that's part of growth. You need to view whatever circumstance and situation is holding you back or stopping you from getting where you're going or presenting a roadblock or a challenge as something you can just learn through and grow through practice, through discipline, but most importantly, your mindset. Step 3, you've got to surround yourself with the right people, period. Space. You've got to get around the right people, right? If you're around people who are constantly telling you that you can't do it, that you won't do it, well, why are you doing it? But you realize the last person who tried it failed, you are in the wrong company. The power of association is so powerful. It's that big of a deal. You've got to find the right networks. You've got to find the right people. You've got to find the right mentors. You've got to find the right peers. You've got to find the right tribe, clan, group, whatever that is, and challenge yourself. Because here's the thing, if you're not around people who will challenge you, encourage you, and inspire you, it'll be easy to argue for your limitation. It'll be easy to stay stuck. It'll be easy to give up on your dreams. It'll be easy to forget that you have a purpose for your life. Yeah, you have a purpose for being here. Sometimes we have to get outside of our own perspective. I like to say you can't see the picture when you're inside the frame. That's what a good network will do. That's what a good peer group will do. That's what a good community will do. Shamelessly, selfishly, I will tell you right now, one of the best communities you could be a part of is the MindShift community. I mean, you're here listening to the show right now. You're listening to the show. Hopefully, you hit the subscribe button. Hopefully, you hit the follow button wherever you're listening to it. Share this with someone. Be a part of the community. Go over to mindshiftcommunity.com and join. It's free. You'll be a part of our community. You'll be a part of our email list. You'll be invited to any of our free events, virtually or otherwise. You must have, step 3, a great community. I've been a part of networking groups. I've been a part of masterminds now for the better part of 30 years, maybe more in like the 25-year mark. But about 3 to 5, 7 years in, I was like, I need to be around different people. I need to be around people who move me and shake me, and I can see different things because we're all just limited by our perspective. What I want you to do as an exercise is when you get a chance to get back to your desk. If you're listening to this on the road, I understand. Don't do it now. But when you get back, I want you to write down a piece of paper, and I want you to write down 3 limiting beliefs, limiting perspectives, limiting mindsets that you know have been holding your life back, your business back, your growth back, your health back. Just 3. And on the other side of that page, just write down 3 ways you might be able to change that belief. And maybe if you're not sure how to change it, identify 3 people who you know of, whether you know them personally or they could be someone famous or someone outside of you, someone who you know who've been through the same thing, who beat it, who got around it, who got over it, who accomplished it, who broke through it. And let that sit there with you for just a little while. This exercise can help you start seeing possibility instead of limitation. This exercise, I did it in 2009, and I was starting to question the very essence of who I knew I was, but I'd been shook up by a circumstance. Anybody here been shook up by a circumstance? And I did this exercise and I split the page down the middle. And on the left side, I had all the things that I was getting in my own way about. And then I identified other times when I'd gone through the same thing or encountered the same feeling or encountered the same thought, and I made it through. It's a powerful exercise when you can write your ideas down and get them out of your head and stop talking to other people and just let it sit, marinate on it for a little bit. But the key is start writing down what the possibilities could look like. The interesting thing about it is you don't have to know the how. You have to just decide, right? Step 1, make peace with the fact. Step 2, decide that I no longer want this limitation holding me back. And that's when the unlock begins. Okay. This principle, this thinking is about life, parenting, business, school. I happen to be talking to an entrepreneur, which I do most often. And it really just bothered me that I could not get this person to let go of the arguing for their limiting beliefs. I don't know if that person's listening, but it doesn't really matter. I was just inspired by that conversation because it wasn't the first. It won't be the last. And I know we all go through it. No one's immune to arguing for our limitations. But if, as a leader, as someone who's aspiring to do something in their life, whether you're chasing your college degree, chasing the corporate ladder, starting your business, growing a startup, starting a family, trying to retire, build a nest egg for your future, we just have to remember that the way we think and then what we say will either move us in the right direction or it'll hold us right where we are or even take us further back. Don't let current, visible, and maybe factual limitations stop you from the dreams and the life that you want. If you haven't hit the subscribe button, I'd invite you to do that now. If today landed with you and you think it'll land with someone else, please share this show with someone else. I appreciate you taking time to be here. Stop arguing for your limitations. Everything you want is possible on the other side of shifting your mind, and you'll shift your results. Until next time, I'll see you then. Hit the subscribe button so you can become a part of the MindShift community. We'll help you shift your mind so you can shift your results.